Alright everybody, cheers for tuning back into the channel. Hope you're all having a good Friday night. I'm having a chilled one. My kid's with his grandpa. He's no long off the phone. I've had a kind of busy day. I've been at my class and that. I'm kind of... Excuse me. Oh. Glad I went. I always feel better after a class for some reason. It must be getting that pent up shit out. You know what it's like. Cheers for all the positive comments. Like, the subs have been going quite mad. They've been shooting up constant. Cheers for everybody that's subbing. That video I did yesterday with Hammy, man, that got like fucking more views in one day than every other video I've did. It just shows the kind of the appetite for I think just like people, a lot of people in Scotland love a gangster story or whatever, do you know, and not got to lie, when I was a kid I was into all that shit, but I think when you you meet some of them in prison and all that, it just becomes like meeting another person. There's nothing kind of really remarkable about a lot of them. What I mean is, like, some are dead unassuming, you know, and it's not like I was sitting having big deep convos with them about their crimes and all that. You'd just be talking about mundane random shit. So the ones that I actually did know and speak to, I've not really got to go into them, because obviously it's a bit of hornet's nest talking about people like that, especially if they're still active in the community or they're in prison. It doesn't matter, you know. So anyway, I wanted the case that I'm going to talk about. Was It's quite an old case, and it was referred to by some of them as Scotland's Forgotten Bulger case. Now, the reason that it was called that was because a few years, so say 3 years before the wee boy Jamie Bulger was killed in Liverpool, there was actually a very, very similar case in Glasgow, right? And the reason that this triggered my memory was because the one of the Bulger killers is in prison and his parole was denied. But how's he even gone for parole? Like, he should get is what my brother used to call the chocolate key. Well, that's me being diplomatic about it, what I think should happen to him, just being honest. What they done to that poor boy. That's one case I don't research at all. I've watched some documentaries on about it years ago, but is like being a dad. It's not really something that I want in my head. I'm quite good at walking through the footsteps of the perpetrator and the victim if I know enough about the offence, and that's just darkness I do not want in my fucking head. There's enough there, do you know? But anyway, this case I'm talking about, Richard Keefe, he was the perpetrator of this attack, right? It happened in Glasgow in 1990, I believe. So this wee 3-year-old boy, his name is Jamie Campbell, right? And he was playing in his grand's garden, and he was I think the grandmother looked out the window and didn't see him there, and she went out to investigate and saw that he wasn't where she had left him, and I think the woman knew he wouldn't just go away. So I think there was like a search party, and the wee boy was found in the local woods, and he'd been battered with stones and sticks and drowned in a stream, I believe. No, I don't know what the cause of death was, but to me, like, it doesn't really matter to me, because the wee guy, he died, right? No, apparently the community were thinking there'd been a murder in these local woods a couple of years before this, and it was a woman. 3 guys had murdered a woman or something, so it was like, I think it was sexual in nature, so everybody's thinking, and I would think this as well, this has got to be somebody that could kill a 3-year-old child. Never in a million years would I think this is a kid. And I'm not 100% sure how the cops got on to Ricky Keefe, but they did. And there had been a social worker involved with him who, before he committed this murder, she had written a report to her superiors saying he needs put in a secure unit, like a children's prison, but it's not like a prison inside it, obviously, because I've been in Carlaw, right? Well, there was 2 parts to Carlaw. There was a secure part and an unsecure part, meaning secure meaning fucking fence round it, bars round the windows, all that shit, locked, every door's locked, they don't open 2 doors at the same time, all that shit, whereas the open part, you could just fucking walk right out. So, she's written that report saying how she just saw whatever red flags, and by the time he'd done this murder, the superiors hadn't taken any action, which to me kind of reaffirms my, I'll admit, confirmational bias on many social workers. It's almost like every time I see a fuck up with them, it's like it confirms what I already think, because of like shit that happened when I stayed with my mum in the Gorbals all those years ago. Like, you would go and tell them you'd be scared to tell them, but you would be like, fuck it man, I'm that desperate to get away. You go and tell them, they fucking take you back after they're putting on the mask of sanity. But anyway, he was convicted in the High Court in Edinburgh. I believe it was 1991, so I would have been 9. And it came out that before this murder, Ricky Keefe had stripped off, I believe the wee boy was only 3 or 4, stripped him naked in the woods. I think he might have flashed a knife at him or assaulted him with a knife, and terrorised this poor wee boy, right, when he was 11 or 12, whatever, he was round about this age. I don't know if he was 11 when he done this and then was 12 when he done the murder. He was definitely Scotland's youngest killer. He was definitely 11 or 12, right? I'll find out in a minute. So he was convicted in the High Court in Edinburgh and sentenced to what in Scotland was called without limit of time. Basically, we'll decide when you get out. There's no fixed date. But in 1997, yours truly went to Carlaw. Obviously, as I've explained in some other podcasts and on this one, I was remanded in custody as a Section 208 convicted young person for abducting 2 social workers who were taking me to a home, right, when I was like drinking vodka in cans of beer. And I get put into the secure unit after a weekend long Regend Remand Centre, right, and I got put into Unit 2, so there was Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. Richard Keefe, I'd never heard of him at this point. This was November 1997. I'd never heard his name in my life, even though I was reading about true crime or that during that time, right? Maybe no 1990, right? That's a bit young for me. I was like in primary 3, do you know what I mean? I was like, I was a young boy, right? But by the time I entered the system, I was reading all this shit, but I'd never heard his name. and he was in Unit 3, right? And the only times that we would ever get to mix with that unit would be education, which he never attended, or the football pitch, right? Now, some of you might be thinking like, how would you be near somebody like him in Kellow? Well, I'm going to tell you that Kellow doesn't have a protection section like fucking like in Ballina, Pullman, Shotts. These have all got places where people like him would be segregated for their own safety, but Kellow wasn't like that. If you done it like that, you were just in with anybody else. Like you could be in. There was people in Kellow who were there because the courts had put them there, and there was people in Kellow, the children's panel had put them there, and I'm talking about the secure unit. If you had been sent there by the courts, you wouldn't be in the open bit. You'd be in the closed part with the fences and the bars, right? And at first, I didn't know who he was, what he was there for. It was almost like there was a blanket secrecy about him, right? But obviously, whispers abound, do you know? And I can't exactly remember how I found it, but it wasn't the newspapers, because even though he was a very high profile, he was probably the most high profile prisoner in there, right? And obviously, when there was anything in the news about him in the newspapers, they wouldn't bring papers in that day. They would just say no papers are getting dished out. So obviously some of the staff would bring a newspaper to work, but if there was anything about him in the paper, they were under strict orders not to hand out papers, right? Sorry, I'm getting a bit of hiccup. But after I found out what he was there for, like, I'm not going to lie, I didn't outright assault him, right? But I always remember, I'm not going to lie, I think he was scared of me because he wasn't the type, and he wasn't in one fight. I was just a fucking volcano in there, man. It didn't take much to set me off, right? I had a real hair trigger temper, which I'd explained about the bar of soap and the soak, fucking fighting with the guy in the home ec class, fighting with the staff, all this kind of shit, right? But I'm not going to lie, this was all about me and how I felt. They'd probably not even done it in that serious, but he used to fucking tiptoe, like he was walking on eggshells with me all the time, especially at the football, right? Because I remember I loved playing in goals, right? And I'm not going to lie, he was a good football player, right? And he would be skinning it, or he'd be skinning my whole team, then scoring into me, and I would just be screaming like I was possessed, really. I can only describe it like that, like a fucking hissing cobra, screaming, "You fucking beast, you fucking scumbag, I'll fucking chop your head off," shouting the most horrendous things you could ever say to somebody. But obviously, being a 15/16-year-old, words like that, I feel, come easy to people that are in these kind of places. Not everybody, but especially the way I felt, like, and I'm not going to say I would have chopped his head off, but I've done damage to him, I'm not going to lie, no, but I didn't physically do any damage to him, which, looking back, know what I mean, but I'm not going to say it. But anyway, I remember there was an open day, right? It was like bring your family in, and they brought a bouncy castle in, because remember this, we're all classed as children by the legal system. We're not classed as, we don't fall under the Scottish Prison Service, so we had a bouncy castle and all this shit. I remember people had brought their families. He'd brought his brother, right, and his brother just looked wrong. You know what I mean? I can't remember what I flipped for. I just flipped that day, man. And it was with him, but I can't even remember what the fuck it was for. And you know what? He done that to the staff. Fucking get him in. And I was like, what? Just pure erupted, man. But I would never do something like this now because there was people's visitors there. Not I just made an absolute fucking show of myself, showing myself up. But it was for him, so you can take it two ways, can't you? But fucking, it was like the staff went out their way to make sure nothing happened to him. It was like they were overprotective of him almost. It seemed that way to me. It might not have been the case, obviously, but it seemed that way. Um, in a year after, um, so I left Kerlaw in November 1998. He was still there. And I think he got out a year later, so he served like fucking 9 years for killing a 3-year-old boy, man. Which is, people go, oh, but he was a child. You'll get people who say that, and then you'll get people who'll be like, fucking lynch him. Do you know what I mean? Part of me's, because I'm objective about it, it wasn't my kid. I'm saying I don't know what side I'd be on, but if it was my kid, I know what side I would be on. Do you know? Just no got to lie about it. Fuck's sake, it is what it is, man. And I'm never ever ever gonna no be a protector for my child until my child can protect himself. Do you know what I mean? But apparently, he had, when he got out, it said that there was a paper story, right? He was getting like visits to this couple's home, right, and getting to play with their kids under the supervision of fucking, it was either workers for Kerlaw or it was psychologists or something, right? And see the family whose house he was visiting and playing with their 3 kids, they didn't have a clue who he was. They thought there was a big kick up in Parliament about it, not because I think they must have went to their MSP because he wrote to the then First Minister Donald Dewar, right, this is how long ago it was, because this fucking woman and man didn't know who he was. They thought, they says, because the internet wasn't really kicking about back in 1999. The internet was a thing, but it wasn't like Google fucking in the 40s would come up and all this kind of shit. So technology was still kind of catching up back then. Nothing like what it is now, so they wouldn't have fun out about him. And to think he'd been playing with your kids. Now it said in the paper it was a motiveless murder, and the reason that he got so long was 2 reasons. One, his age. Two, there's no motive. Now listen, right, I'm not a fucking fully accredited expert by the British Psychological Society, blah blah blah, fucking FBI trained, whatever. Listen, I'm telling you, there is no such thing as a motiveless murder. There's no such thing. The motive for that murder is locked in Richard Keefe's head, and he's not going to tell you what that motive was. Now, in my book, there's 2 possibilities. One, he's sadistic. 2, it was sexually motivated, but the wee boy wasn't touched that way. But what I mean is the act of violence itself might have been sexually exciting to him, which means sexual sadism, and he might not have understood that at the time, but he's what now? Same age as me, year older, maybe 2 year older, something like that. I think he's a few year older than me, maybe 3-4 year old, something like that, right? Now, he knows what that motive is, trust me, man. There is no doubt in my mind about that. And apparently there was kind of there was a newspaper piece, right, that the family, this poor wee boy who he killed, his mum or his parents, both his parents had died in a fire, right? No long after he was first born, so he was staying with his uncle and his auntie, right? So a wee guy had a bad start in life, do you know? Um, just tragic, man. And there was a kind of there was an article in 2018, right? Now I'm just going to read it to you. The headline is "The Forgotten Jamie Bulger. Family of murdered toddler lured to his death by Scotland's youngest child killer call for justice as murderer, now 39, brags on Facebook about life outside prison." So this is for 2018, the year before I got out, right? The family of a toddler lured to his death by Scotland's youngest killer are calling for justice after finding the murderer on Facebook bragging about his new life outside prison. Jamie Campbell was 3 when he was taken from his grandmother's garden in August 1990 by twisted 11-year-old Richard Keefe, who repeatedly beat him with sticks and stones before drowning him. The murder, which happened 3 years before Jamie Bulger, was taken by John Venables and Robert Thompson. Shit. I hate that. See when you fucking click shit and it comes on to something else, fucking ads. Oh, excuse me. I hate all that. Ads all pop up now. Anyway. The murder, which happened 3 years before Jamie Bulger, was taken by John Venables and Robert Thompson, saw Keith named as the youngest killer in Scotland. The victim's family say Jamie's plight bears a striking resemblance to the Bulger case, with troubled older children carrying out horrific acts of violence on much younger toddlers. But while the killing became one of the most high-profile cases in British legal history, Jamie Campbell's cousin feels their own tragedy has been ignored. Speaking to Mail Online, Kimberly McPhillips told of the family's heartache over feeling as though their 3-year-old cousin Jamie had been forgotten from history. This is the wee boy's cousin, right? She said, after Jamie Bulger went missing in 1993, a Scottish social worker was quoted as saying at the time, that would never happen in Scotland, but it did. It happened to our Jamie 3 years before. There you go. I just want Jamie's story to be remembered and I don't want him to be forgotten. We are not trying to take anything away from the Bulger case. It's just that every time it gets brought up, it brings it all back for us, do you know? So they're heavy fucking traumatised, as you would be, you know what I mean? And this freak's living a few mile away, you know what I mean? Living fucking... Where's Dexter when you need him? Child killer Richard Keefe, who is now 39, was released after serving 8 years for the crime he committed at the age of 11. Now Miss McPhillips said the family are facing fresh agony after learning Jamie's killer is living 5 miles away and has been boasting about his new life online. 5 miles? That's walking distance to me, fuck's sake. You could be getting on the same bus as him or anything. How would you restrain yourself, man? Fuck. You know what I mean? The law would end up taking his side. So this is the lassie talking, right? When we first found him on Facebook, I didn't believe it would be him. I thought living so close to us he would have changed his name. It felt like he was doing it on purpose. You will never forget that face. It gave us all chills. We were all just blown away by how he has blatantly been living his life without any respect or remorse. If you really repented for what you'd done, or you had some thought for the family, you wouldn't be on Facebook. She said she had also been told Keith had boasted about killing Jamie, telling someone he didn't want to talk about it, but he had killed someone once. I'm not going to lie, I don't know if I would take that as a boast. Could kind of be taken a couple of ways in my opinion, but neither here nor there, what I mean. Miss McPhillips said it just doesn't seem right that he is allowed to be all over Facebook on a public profile where the family of his victims can see him getting on with a new life. I know my aunt and uncle still grieve every single day. They will never get over losing Jamie. This feels like a slap in the face to them. I bet. That's probably putting it mildly. Miss McPhillips said, after I posted on social media asking people not to forget Jamie's case in light of the attention given to John Venables, I received hundreds of messages. She said it was really upsetting to find out Keith was living in Scotland with his own name and not a care in the world. She added, I don't want retribution. I think he should be given another identity and told he can't use social media. Just a little consideration for the victims is what we're asking for. I just want to say that I always think that's no mad, right? But see how somebody could commit an act like that against one of your family, especially a child, and you don't want retribution. That kinda, I'm curious about that because I always think that's so noble. That is so noble, man. It kinda could bring a tear to a glass eye, in my opinion, you know? Like, he killed a 3-year-old child and they don't want retribution, man. That's just, I don't know, I'm in awe of people like that, to be honest with you. She said, we never forget Jamie. He's a constant in our family. There's pictures of him in our family home. The James Bulger case in Liverpool was huge and everyone remembers it. It's very upsetting for the horror of what that family went through. But it just always makes me think of what my family went through. It upset me because seeing that brings it all back and I just want to keep Jamie's memory alive. Well, I hope this video might be doing that for you, pal. It's strange because there are so many similarities in the cases, but no one remembers our Jamie. Well, I do. I know I don't know the kid, but it just a shame, man, do you know? A wee child. So it just said Jamie had been playing near his grandmother's home in Drumchapel, Glasgow when he went missing. Ahead of the trial, it emerged that Keith had attacked another 3-year-old in Drumchapel with a penknife and beaten him. And he'd said to the wee boy, I'll be back to finish you, or something. And apparently the person still has nightmares a day. This boy, I'd seen his name in another article, but I can't remember it. Can only remember the first name. Apparently he still has nightmares about it, which is understandable, obviously, you know. He was detained without limit of time after being convicted of culpable homicide and spent 8 years at Carelaw Secure Unit in Stevenson, Ayrshire. But the killer was released at the age of 20. And I remember when I was 20, man, I was just fucking... I don't want to say in my criminal prime, like I was a fucking master criminal, but I mean as at the peak, probably at the peak of my criminal behaviour. That's a better way of putting it. You're not really that mature when you're 20. You think you're, but I don't. When I look back now, I'm fucking 41. Nah. Following a decision by the Pro Board, when Keith was released in 1999, Kim said, Keith is evil to the core and you can't cure evil. Totally agree with that. I can't bear the thought of him running the streets. No. There was also an article I read that when he was getting out, that somebody in Carelaw had notified the media and said they wanted to report anonymously that he was getting out and they were worried he was going to do it again, right? And apparently Ricky Keefe is out living in the community somewhere in Scotland with his own kid or kids. Now, if you're watching this, Ricky, look at your kid and think back to when he or she was 3 years old, right? Because you don't forget your kid. Do you know what I mean? Maybe you do, I don't know, but I fucking don't. And then think about what you done to that wee boy, right? And try and superimpose that on your kid, what you done to that kid, right? And I would ask you, do you feel anything? That is a good question, man. Because, in my view, anybody who could do that to a child is you're on you're not on another planet, you're in another galaxy. Um and I hope that that wee boy is remembered. Um and I think there should be more done for victims of crime, especially ones where there's been like murders and shit, you know, because it's fucking. I've always said that, even with my own offending, like even what I've done to other people, even people I've victimised, that I always say that even my own family I've made victims, because obviously what I've said before, they have to worry about me being in jail and am I going to be alright and am I going to get out, are they going to see me again, am I going to fucking handle it, whatever, right? Some people might disagree with that, but there's even the police say that when there's a violent offence, the offenders' families of victims and all, they need to get through all this trauma and fucking shit, man. Your family could, unless they're criminals themselves, you know, and they're doing time and doing fucking whatever. But my family, like my dad's side anyway, they were just they were in and out of jail, never had a parting ticket. Know what I mean? Except for me, obviously. Um, but I think I hope this video pays tribute to that wee boy. I'm not trying to like bring it up or anything, but if for what I read in that, um, obviously if the wee boy's cousin saying like we hope people remember him, well I hope this video does him, the boy's memory justice, you know. Because it's just a fucking tragedy, and I've always wondered how that that case had, it was well known at the time, but it's almost unheard of in Scotland now, especially in, like, Ricky Keefe could go into fucking Berlin tomorrow and nobody would know who the fuck he was unless somebody like me showed up. Do you know what I mean? Touch wood. You know what I mean? But um, Reacher season 2's out, so I think I'm going to make a start on it. I'd started watching season 1 again because season 2 was coming up. It's good, you should watch it. Cheers to everybody leaving all the positive comments, as I said. Um, and all the negative ones, I don't engage with that shit. I've had enough of that. You know what I mean? Especially like the anonymous accounts. It's what I said to somebody. Like when they're saying, "Oh, don't engage with the arseholes and all that," and I'm like, I don't like somebody with an anonymous account being direct. It's like kind of like an oxymoron or something, innit? It's like just absurd. Fuck's sake. Sitting in their fucking most spare room with her fucking wife beater with spaghetti hoops dripping down it, fuck's sake, know what I mean? Trying to fucking have a go at me. Big shout going out to you, kid. Um, so, I hope this video was kind of insightful or not gonna say it was. I hope it was entertaining, because this is not entertainment. Do you know? Hope it was interesting, and I hope that it'll like kind of make some people aware of this wee boy's memory and aware of the person who perpetrated it. So I hope you have a good Friday night, and I'll be back on soon. So good night, take care.